Hey everyone, this is Phil. I just wanted to come in here ahead of the show and give you a heads up that I'm an idiot. I started recording this episode and I had the wrong mic selected. I just had the onboard computer mic, so it was just a general picking up the room. I don't think the audio is unlistenable, but it's probably a little less than what you're used to for about the first 10 minutes, at which point I realized that I'm a complete dipshit, and I switched everything over. So there's a little bit of, let's just call it audio turbulence at the beginning of this, and I tried to correct that as best I could. Just a heads up. So I appreciate you bearing with us and enjoy the episode. Hello and welcome to the Picture Show with Austin and Phil Rood. I am Phil Rood. I'm the dad.
I'm Austin Rood. I'm the son. Each week we watch a movie and then we get on mic and we talk about it.
That is correct.
Welcome to the show.
Yes. It's still what we do.
38 episodes in, I think.
That
might be wrong.
Yeah, we're right around there. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I don't pay that close of attention.
There will be no huge format changes and suddenly become a board game review show.
This week, Monopoly.
Capitalism, am I right?
Hey, Parker Brothers knew what was up.
I don't get that reference.
That's the game company. The Parker Brothers? No?
Free parking?
No, the company that made Monopoly.
I know, but I'm just making weird
I don't know if it was Parker Brothers. It could have been Hasbro
or the Wright brothers.
The Wright brothers, that's right. They invented flying, and then when it became about commercial travel, they got frustrated, so they invented Monopoly.
It's the only way to go.
What if we started that rumor? What if we said that just now, and we never said we were kidding, and someone listened to this and believed it?
That's how misinformation happens.
That is how misinformation happens. I'm pretty obviously joking, though, right?
Not everyone's good at reading tone.
20 years ago, I think it would have been obvious.
Someone's going to take that clip and
be like, hey, did you hear this?
Phil Rood is spreading lies.
Phil Rood doesn't know where Monopoly came from. Anyway.
What have you been up to?
I've been working. I've been trying to get caught up on art. And I started watching Mayor of Easttown on HBO Max.
And that is?
I keep wanting to call it HBO Go. I don't remember what the app is called. Mayor of Easttown is it's kind of like a crime character study of a detective in kind of small town Pennsylvania, and she's kind of a train wreck. And it's interesting despite itself. We're like 3 episodes in now. We're almost caught up. The episodes are dropping.
You and my mom?
Yeah. Me and Christy are watching. We I don't know. We saw a preview for it a couple weeks ago, and we were like, "That looks interesting." And
so is it like a mystery?
There's a murder case that's happening, but there's also like stuff going on with her kids and her grandson and her ex-husband and just
family drama.
There's a lot of like family history, and it's a kind of interesting character study of somebody that it's one of those things where it's like, she's like a toxic person that I would not spend time with in real life. But the interesting thing about a show like this is they can also sort of say, yes, this person is sort of damaged and damaging to other people. Let's examine why and how she is that way. And, and sort of try to understand where she's coming. That's where I think a good character study comes in. It's not a perfect show by any stretch, but it's interesting, and we're enjoying it so far.
So the mayor, she's kind of like the main focus of the
No,
show.
she's the detective.
Detective,
She's
sorry.
a
Okay.
cop. Yeah, yeah. She's mayor of Easttown, so that's her. It's
All right.
title character, and yeah, it's an interesting drama, like crime drama. So
Cool.
yeah, I think that's about it. Besides what we watched today, I don't think I've really.
You haven't watched any more of Totoro?
No, I didn't watch Totoro again. I did want to make some time for start making some time to watch some more Miyazaki stuff, but I just haven't done it yet. I keep saying once I get caught up on this artwork I'm backlogged on, and then it's I also have to do the episode art for
That's how
every
it
week,
happens.
and
Yeah.
it just becomes kind of a scheduling issue. Um,
Yeah,
but
I get that.
how about you? What have you been up to?
Uh, Not much TV, honestly. I've actually been reading a
Yeah,
lot. Yeah, this book, Artemis, it's by
Andy Weir.
Andy Weir. I always want to say Wire.
Right.
Weir just doesn't go off the tongue as well. Best known for The Martian. This was his second book. Uh, and it's about like a moon base. It's very technical, like all his stuff is.
Yeah, it's math fiction.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah,
more of an excuse to design a cool city. But
it's like the prog rock of literature. It's math based. It's a lot of very technical
it's
kind
a
of stuff.
physics lesson.
Right. It's he's a engineer before he was a writer, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like it's his world.
But this one is a lot. I don't know if it's better than The Martian. It's similar but different in like there's a ton of characters. There's a culture to this city.
Mm-hmm.
He goes into like the economics and there's like immigration and then he kind of describes the different sections of town and how like uh, different nationalities sort of have different markets cornered. Like the main character, she's from Saudi Arabia, and her family and like neighboring families from Saudi Arabia, they're all welders. So they kind of have
Okay.
that business corner just because like that mirrors like immigration in real life. How,
Sure.
uh,
Like in Deadwood, sort of paints that the HBO show Deadwood, like where all the Chinese uh, immigrants have like their own Chinatown within Deadwood, and that's where it's where stereotypes come from about like Chinese laundry and things like that. Like
right.
these were businesses that like immigrants ran in old West settlements, and it sounds like he's sort of paralleling that in this futuristic kind of world.
He's relating it to how the future of this is the future of colonization. So it's kind of looking at the pros and cons of that. It doesn't shy away from the negative aspects. So it's really interesting, and there's like a whole heist thing going on.
Okay.
There's this big conspiracy to take over the city. It's really cool though.
Okay.
So yeah, I've been wrapped up in that.
Artemis. You said you weren't sure if it's better than The Martian or not. Isn't it weird that we have this like compulsion to like rank?
Yeah.
You know, like it's always like a question around movies a lot of times is like, what's your favorite Tarantino movie or what's your favorite like Coen Brothers movie? And it's like something like that is always shifting for me. You know, it kind of depends. And then I get to a point where I'm like, why do I have to rank these? Like, I love all of these Coen Brothers movies. I love all of these Tarantino movies. Like, why do I have to pick one that stands out above the? It's just it's a weird compulsion we have.
Yeah, I think I said that because like I've been kind of trying to figure out him as an author
Mm-hmm.
because I'm like comparing these two books and I'm trying to figure out like there's a lot of similarities. Like I don't want to sound negative, but he's not the best at writing characterization. So like he falls back on other things, and you can kind of see like in The Martian when it's just one character, right? And he's talking to himself and he's got all these laws. It's a lot different than this book.
Yeah, but even The Martian, and this is, I don't mean to dig on that book. It's not like he wrote like deep character for The Martian either. Like it was all everything that those characters were going through was not about who they were as people. It was about uh, what the problem that they were solving right in front of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there was no like flashbacks to growing up or who they were as people.
It's thought experiments.
Sure, and it's not intended to be like some deep character study. You know what I mean? It's just sort of like it's I don't want to minimize it, but it's like an airport book. It's like the Da Vinci Code or any of the John Grisham books. They're perfectly fun, entertaining. They work in the world that they are set in. It's not a deep exploration of anybody's character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just it's paperback writing done really well in a very entertaining way. So.
It's an exploration of science, though, for sure, and that's what I love about it.
Have you ever seen Primer? I've shown you Primer,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Primer, very similarly, is a movie made by a former engineer, and that's why that movie is so tangled.
Science fiction is done best when you know science. Not always.
I'll say it's done in a very like Primer is something like 2001, where it's not the clearest movie. It doesn't succeed in that way, but it is like super interesting. Like I enjoy Primer because it's like a puzzle, and I'm trying to solve what the hell is this movie? What is going on?
It's an unsolvable puzzle.
Kind of, yeah. It's like the cinematic Rubik's cube for me that I cannot crack it. But
one day you'll get there.
One day,
or you'll run out of ink. Primer.
God.
I don't know. I think of printers. Anyway,
what did we watch for the show this week?
This week was my pick, and I chose to watch 2017's Cargo. Set in post-apocalyptic Australia, an infected father treks across the rural outback in search of someone to care for his baby before he dies. The movie stars the wonderful Martin Freeman alongside Susie Porter, Simone Landers, Karen Pistorius, and Anthony Hayes. It's written by Yolanda Ramke, I believe. And directed by her and Ben Howling. The movie was based off a short film by the same directors, also called Cargo.
There it is. That makes all the sense in the world.
All right. Well, right as we get started, I want to give you like 5 minutes in the beginning to talk about the poor pacing of this movie, or whatever issues you had with it.
No, my issues are going to be sprinkled throughout the conversation.
I'm not
going to dump them here, and so that you can go, okay, now that that's out of the way, this movie rules. No, this movie, and I get this in a couple other Netflix movies that I've seen, because they sort of, I think, like to do that thing where they take a novel, and you can kind of feel, as you're watching it, like, this would work as a book. Or when you find out it's based on a novel, you go, oh, that makes sense because there's nothing happening. Yeah, like there's no dialogue, there's no real action. This would be like an inner monologue kind of book thing. And this makes sense because this would work as a 20 to 30 minute short film, I think, compressed so much better than this. I feel like this has the problem that, what's that, Lights Out? Remember that movie, Lights Out?
No.
It was like an internet short about somebody flips the light switch off, and down the hall they see a shadow.
Oh,
and then they turn it on and it's gone, and then they made like a feature-length movie out of it. And it's like, no, what works about that is that it's this short, little, single concept that is delivered best in this short form. And I feel like this...
You think this deserved to only be a short film?
No, I think the amount of content that is in this movie is the same amount that would have been in a short film, just spread across an hour and 45 minutes to where the pacing of this movie is excruciatingly slow. It is.
It really needed to be tightened up.
There's no substance to this movie. There is attempts at it, and there are hints at it, and I feel that they're trying to make a point, but this movie just reads as so hollow to me that I didn't necessarily think it was a huge chore to get through. It just seems like, boy, cut this movie way down. And I think it is a much better paced experience.
I agree with the pacing. You caught me off guard with this movie feels hollow. Because I feel like there's a lot of substance to this movie. And what makes me mad about the pacing is the fact that it deters from that. There's a lot going on in this movie.
There are hints of things going on in this movie, but I don't think it delivers on a whole lot of them. Go ahead.
I think it would be better, like, a lot of times you don't know, like, what's our next move? Like, it's a little directionless.
Yeah.
And I feel like it needed a more intense, like, through line throughout the whole movie. But
there's no single thing to overcome except that crazy guy. And he's not even a consistent, like, bad guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I understand, like, his goal is find someone to take care of my kid. But it just doesn't, it doesn't sit there as a looming bullseye until about the last half hour. Then he's sort of like under the gun to get it done.
Yeah, it does kind of seem like he's taking his time.
Well, it's not just that he's taking his time. This movie is meandering. It kind of is just sort of wandering in a slow circle, not sure of which way it's going, not sure the direction it's going to take. And it just, I don't know. This wasn't like necessarily like a huge chore to get through. I didn't hate it, but I wouldn't watch it again. I just think like it just is a slow, almost pointless movie that is trying to be, again, it's trying to be better movies. I think we run into this again and again of movies that come up short for me. A lot of times they're just trying to be better movies. Like this movie could have been The Road. But it doesn't have what, like The Road has stakes to it, and The Road is super nihilistic, and I don't feel like this movie is. But there are stakes in The Road. And I feel like there is a more pressing sort of life or death kind of thing with everybody they encounter in The Road. And I just didn't get that here. You know what I mean?
I guess. I don't know. You're being very harsh. It's catching me off guard. I don't like it because I see someone put a lot of care into this movie, and there's a lot here.
Someone puts a lot of care into every movie.
Not every movie.
Nobody sets out. It takes a lot of effort to make a movie. Nobody's setting out to make a bad movie. And
I don't think anyone loved making Boss Baby. Like, there are exceptions.
Somebody put time into that script. Somebody organized everything. Movies are... Everybody thinks this movie is going to be successful. This movie is going to be good. It's going to communicate what I want it to. And look, I'm not saying this is a bad movie. It's not a terrible, unwatchable movie. This movie looks great.
Okay.
It's well acted. There is something here. They just, I feel like, didn't quite dig far enough to get it.
There was a stumble, okay? But I don't know. I walked away. This is the second time I watched this movie. The first time was back when it first came out, and so like I went into this and I didn't remember like the plot. Like
Okay.
I remembered scenes and stuff, but I didn't remember the plot. But I remembered walking away being like, that was a really cool story, and like it wasn't something that I expected.
There is a cool story in here.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there's not a cool story. It's just buried under. I'm just gonna say it's buried under boredom. This movie is boring, and it didn't. It just didn't compel me. It didn't lock in with me. If it did with you, I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just saying like this movie didn't engage me. I wanted it to, because this movie is interesting. It's interesting in that it is a zombie movie that's not about zombies. He's never fighting like a horde of zombies. You know what I mean? It's not as cliched Night of the Living Dead knockoff or something like that.
Because the zombies aren't like zombies. They're there. This isn't just like an aimless apocalypse. There's a reason behind it.
Right.
There's a message to it. I like that.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm upset that you're.
I'm not attacking you for your
You're
opinion
attacking
on
this
it.
movie, though. I don't think that's fair.
Why isn't it fair?
I don't know.
You think if someone makes something, it's above being criticized? You criticize movies. You criticize Road to Perdition. You criticize Book of Eli. There are plenty of movies you don't
but
like.
you're better at arguing than me. It's not fair.
I'm not.
I'm just kidding. But like,
I'm not making an argument that you should not like this movie.
I don't know. What I found strange is the first time I watched this movie, I don't remember having any problems with pacing. It's when I watched it with you that I like felt that you were bored, and then I became bored.
I think no, this has happened to me before with other movies where you're not bored the first time because you don't know what's going to happen. So you're like in anticipation the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you watch it again, and once you know the story beats, then you notice like, this part's coming up. And then it's like way longer than you think it is. And you're like, oh man.
Right, because there has to be 5 minutes of shots of them walking through the desert.
Right. Like the pacing of this movie really drags it down. And I feel like that's where I'm saying like the short film of this, I would watch the short film of this. Like it feels like they didn't add any substance to it. They just stretched it out with these long shots of walking, of just, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
We don't have anything to fill in the pockets here. And I don't know that for sure. That's just what it feels like. It could be that they added the whole Aborigine subplot to this. You know what I mean? Which is something that's interesting that I don't feel like they explore enough. The only part of it that they explore is the little girl that ends up walking with him.
Yeah.
Like that's really it. Everything else they sort of dance around it, but they don't really get to the heart of the native people. They don't get to the heart of like the first lady he encounters, the teacher at the town.
The school, yeah.
Yeah. Like it's just sort of a series of passing people on the road and sort of encountering them and going, there's something interesting that happened here. Or there's some sort of symbolism happening here. And just no follow through on it.
The only time that I like feel that like with the school, I don't know, like it feels like he keeps going to places, he keeps like trying to reach his destination, and then there's like something that rules someone out. Like
Sure.
that lady, she has cancer, she's
Right.
gonna die soon. And the man is a psychopath, and
Right.
but like I think the only time that I'm like, come on, is when they go back to the riverbank and find that family.
Yeah.
For the mass suicide that's just like for shock value or something. That's the only time that I'm like, really, guys? But the rest of it feels important to the story.
No, I think it is important to the story. I think I just didn't like the execution of it. There's just something about it just failed to connect with me. This movie looks great. I can't knock the cinematography of it. Like, Australia's gorgeous, and it's like, show me. I would watch shots of that all day. But the story put into it. You're right. There is like this escalating thing with everybody they encounter that rules them out, and it gets more and more extreme. And it's like the wife is like, oh, she's bitten and she's bleeding everywhere. She's bleeding out. Oh, also, she's turning into a zombie. Oh, also, she has a tree through her stomach. It's like this, every 5 minutes, something horrible happened to the wife. And it's almost like, I would have rather this movie been 2 hours of escalating shit happening to the wife.
She gets kidnapped by aliens.
She's burned alive. They drive off a cliff, but, the escalation is almost comical. It almost, like, I laughed when she had the tree through her stomach, because it was like, are you kidding me?
See, I have an issue, because, like, I know why they do the things that they do in this movie, but it doesn't work.
Talk to me.
Like, okay, so that beginning...
Don't just sit here and get mad at me for having an opinion.
Well, you're right, but also
tell me
wrong.
Tell me the substance of this movie that I didn't get.
So, well, I'm talking about, for this, it's the execution. I understand why they did this with the wife. They have that scene where she's like, I'm not going with you. I'm gonna sit here, and it's like really set up to be like, okay, we're saying bye to her. And then Martin Freeman's character just goes, no. And he, like, picks her up. And it's so, like, I love that scene. Because it's, like, this refusal to let go. Even though it's a dumb decision. And it ends up getting him also doomed to die.
Right.
But, like, yeah, it's very, like, no, we're not letting go. And then, oh, well, for the plot, we need her to be gone. So we're going to immediately kill her off in the most immediate way possible.
And this, I think this is part of the problem, is that Martin Freeman's character was meant to be, you're right about the letting go thing. Like, his character arc is supposed to be about him learning to let go. Like, the whole conversation at the beginning of the movie where she's like, we should find a car and drive. And he's like, no, we have control on the road. He's a control freak.
Yeah.
But they don't do a good enough job of painting that at the beginning. There's that one conversation, and then there's the refusal to let his wife go. But they don't really ever flesh that character part of him out. So you don't really realize, that that's what his arc is learning that I can't control what's happening to me. Because he's still trying, I don't know. There's something about that is almost like, it's just not, that's my problem with this movie, is there's all these things like this that are there. There are hints of it there, but they don't flesh it out enough to where it's communicated clearly.
See, I see it as realism. Like, he's not gonna, like, it's not over the top. Like,
no,
it's just there. You have to put it together yourself. They're not gonna show you. I don't know.
It's not that it's not spoon-fed to me. It is there. I just don't feel like, I feel like it's them saying, he's a control freak without really painting that picture. You know what I mean? Without really fleshing it out. It's almost like they go, we'll put in these two scenes that are really fast, these two instances of him refusing to let go, and that's going to paint his entire character. But really, I feel like that comes up a little bit short. And they don't really, I think there's only one conversation that he has with the little girl about like, oh, we can't control what's happening. Like your dad and I, we can't control what's happening. Like, and then it's like, oh, okay, he's accepted that he doesn't have control. We don't see that journey from point A to point B. It's almost like it happens in his mind, and then he tells us. You know what I mean? I guess. I think that's it. That's what I'm saying is that it's there, but it's not fleshed out very well. It's a sketch of something without being a finished piece.
Okay.
The character work. That's my big problem with this.
I guess so. I don't know.
It's a little underwritten is I think what I'm trying to say.
I found myself attached to the characters. Like Martin Freeman specifically, like there's just little bits of humanity in like the way that he tries to cheer up Rosie and his refusal to let go. Like all of this stuff, like in little scenes when he makes jokes and it's just like a weird time to make a joke.
I think Martin Freeman is good in this movie. I just don't think I think it's a script problem and a maybe an editing problem to where that pacing is.
I walked away saying this movie needs a new editor.
It needs some fat trimmed off of it. But I think Martin Freeman is really good when Vic takes him out and they're like shooting zombies.
Yeah.
Like he looks horrified. And he looks horrified and communicates that without saying a word.
And when he sees the clever one in the cage and just like makes eyes with like what's happening there without it being spoken.
He's horrified by all of it. He's ashamed that he's there with him, but he also is like, I have to keep my daughter safe. Like it's just weird. And I think that's all communicated really well because Martin Freeman does a really good job in this movie. Whatever this movie's shortcomings, I don't think Martin Freeman is one of them. I don't think the acting in this movie is bad at all. Like, Vic and his wife, is it Toomey? Is that
Toomey.
Toomey?
Toomey.
With an M?
I think N. Tooney.
Tooney, okay. I think she's really good. And in like, this kind of wordless first half that she has, where she's running around checking on her family in the caves and stuff like that.
Just kind of living on her own.
And it's just sort of like, that's a good kid actor. I don't know who played Martin Freeman's wife. I thought she was really good for the short time. I don't think...
before she was brutally abused.
She was murdered 6 times. But, no, I don't have a problem with Martin Freeman or anybody's performance.
No, I know. I liked his character. I think
his character was good. I think it just needed to be written better.
I guess.
Or compressed or something.
Maybe it's that this movie is more focused on like the message than like I feel like more of the effort went into that.
What is the message of this movie?
I think it's a clash between tradition and like the modern world. Like it's all in the world building of this. So from what I've pieced together, they show that the Aboriginal people live with the land. Right. And then in the modern day, we don't treat the land well. We pollute. There's bumper stickers about fracking and the gas and all of this stuff.
Right.
and that's harming the earth. And so a virus sweeps the land and is killing people, and this is like the earth healing itself. And the people who are living using modern ways of life, they don't know how to survive on their own. But the people who have been forced into reservations and are still living their cultural ways, they know how to survive, and they're still taking care of the land.
Sure.
And that's what's gonna... It's killing out the bad culture and kind of maintaining those traditional values that are going to help keep the ecosystem, like, together.
Okay.
That's how I read it. And I feel like there's hints of that with, like, a big thing is, like, the gas, like, that man, he has control of the gas pumps, and
right.
he's fighting with the aboriginals.
Right. He's, he represents, probably the modern world, and like his whole thing is like, I'm gonna hoard all this stuff, and then when the world comes back, I'm gonna be the richest man.
He's preserving things and collecting.
Yeah, I don't know preserving as much as just it's wealth in a time that wealth doesn't mean anything. You know, like
I don't mean preserving in a good way.
Right. And yeah, I suppose there's something to that with them taking in the white baby at the end, you know, and it being like a you know, let us take it from here. You know, they're taking I don't want to say control over the baby, but like them taking in the modern world is sort of like, here, we'll show you how to get through this, and
it's like
whatever.
Rosie is adopting their way. She's being welcomed into
being
the tribe.
Opened into that. Yeah.
Right.
There's a weird I feel like spirit world metaphor going on here, where Toonie is like hiding her footprints and walking among the ghosts and all of these things, and then at a certain point she goes, I'm ready to go back home. And then they go back, and there's like a smoky haze, and it's almost, there's a weird like underworld, there's a weird like escorting, you know, like the ferryman in mythology that escorts the spirits to the, you know, to the world of the dead or whatever.
Right.
I feel like there's a very roundabout attempt at a metaphor of that with the Aborigines like killing zombie. You know what I mean? Like in that smoky haze, and then sort of a welcoming Martin Freeman and, you know, taking him to the other side and ending that pain. Like there is a weird healing thing to that.
I just put something together. It's totally an excuse, but this movie is, so when Martin's alone, he's meandering, right?
Yeah.
But then he's guided by Toonie, and then that's like the plot coming back to, not really, but like,
no, there's probably something to it. This is what I'm saying. We're sitting here trying to piece this together because these things were not made super clear in the movie. You know what I mean? Like, like I understand I don't need it spoon-fed to me, but you
there's a middle ground.
You have to put enough substance in there that it's like doing a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Like, okay, I can kind of see the picture here, but I have nothing to fill in the blank space. Yeah,
like they have the zombies putting their heads to the ground and like against walls. That was the most like confusing part of this movie because they just don't address it. I think it's meant to be like that, but like I don't know.
I don't know if it has something to do with ignoring the problem with, you know what I mean? Like, burying your head in the sand or
Right.
hiding from the horror. I don't know. I don't know what that was all about.
I saw it as like the like that's a sign of the disease being connected to like the earth.
Could be.
Like this is spiritual in nature, and it's
I kept waiting for someone to explain it.
what
You know what I mean?
Once they're zombies, they're just gonna kind of die, dig their own grave, and just put their head in the sand.
Could have been like that last bit of humanity trying to, here, let me try to restrain myself or something.
She
I
does.
don't know.
Toonie at one point says they're hibernating in that
tunnel, in the train tunnel. Yeah.
But again, that's like that could mean anything,
Right.
I actually like that could be their humanity fighting it. I kind of like that.
It
like
could
that
be.
They're just like, I'm gonna turn away and put my head against the wall.
We could kind of map anything onto this because it's a little bit wide open.
It's pretty vague. Yeah.
I think just to address that pacing, the other part of the pacing is I have in here, slow does not equal dramatic. I feel like this is one of the things where it's like, if we make it a really slow movie and a really ponderous movie, that seems smart and dramatic. And I just don't think that it worked. I think it slowed this movie to a crawl and made it super boring in parts.
I don't even think it's super intentional. Like,
No.
I feel like if you look at each scene or each like story segment from this movie, it plays out really well on its own. It's just together. There's no story structure, so it doesn't flow well. Like this movie could work. It just
doesn't.
Right. Because I feel like maybe they focus too much on like each individual part, and then they never looked at the big picture of it all.
I'm starting to wonder, the more Netflix movies I see.
I know.
No. Like,
I won't
really
pick any more Netflix movies.
I wonder if Netflix has an issue of... Because, I mean, these are made by different writers, different directors. I wonder if Netflix gives notes. I wonder if they are the problem. Because, like, Netflix is essentially making the equivalent of, like, the 90s and early 2000s, like, straight-to-video movies.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But the difference is Netflix has, like, these monstrous budgets to where they can get, like, big stars. These things look amazing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's something lacking in the story in these movies. I.O. that we watched a few weeks ago. The Old Guard is a lot of action. It's not a boring movie, but it's a thin movie. You know what I mean?
Another one that comes to mind is that Cloverfield movie that went direct to Netflix.
Yes.
And it was literally like that one was just sold to them because the studio knew it was bad and knew it was going to fail. So they just did stunt marketing.
It wasn't even a Cloverfield movie. It was just a bad sci-fi movie that they rebranded, and they're like, we can at least get people to watch it once. And there's a weird Netflix problem where I think they meddle. So, there's something because if it was like a director or a writer that was the common denominator across all these things. But it's not a budget problem. It's not a
I don't think all of them are bad though. I'm
not gonna say that.
But yes, there is a quality issue.
I think across the board there is something lacking, even like the Marvel TV shows, like,
oh yeah,
those things stumbled hard. Some of them were fun and overall good, but man, it was a chore to get through some of that stuff. And I just don't know what the issue is, because it seems like
I know they own and partner with a lot of smaller studios, like, because this is an Australian film. It wasn't, like, I don't know, but like, I know they have other Australian films and like TV shows, and I think it's all from the same studio.
That's interesting. So then Netflix is essentially like a distribution company,
Pretty much,
for
yeah.
small studios. Oh, that's interesting.
And
that
they
could be-
hook them up with these bigger actors, like Falcon was in I.O. and this is Martin Freeman.
Martin Freeman. I'm trying to think I can't remember it. The Ellen Page movie. It's like also or Elliot Page. I don't know how to do this.
It's Elliot Page. But it's okay
no,
to mess
but
up.
at the time,
it's still
it was
Elliot.
Ellen Page.
Yes.
And I don't know how to can't movies when somebody was somebody else.
You should still use the new name. Just it's okay if you mess up.
I can't remember the name, but it's her and her sister are left out in the woods, and it's like, oh, you know what I mean?
I've heard of that one.
And it's not a bad movie, but it's also just insanely slow. And then it gets to the end, and it's like based on the novel, and it's like, yes, that's what I'm talking about. Like, this would make so much more sense as a novel.
There was another movie that did that. It wasn't a Netflix one, but it was about that painting of the bird, the finch painting,
the goldfinch, or something like that.
And it was just like, it was a horrible movie. It was like, it was awful. It made no sense, and then it went based on the book, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
Because it went through like 30 years of this guy's life and no sense or structure to it. It was just a mess.
Into the Forest is the name of that movie.
Okay.
And it's Elliot Page and Evan Rachel Wood. And it's not a bad movie. It just the same as this one. It slows so far down that any point they were trying to make just sort of gets lost. It just sort of drifts away from the surface.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm sure there's an audience for that movie too that's like, no, this is a good movie about sisters and struggling to survive, and I get all that. But it just loses me somewhere.
From a technical standpoint, this movie is not perfect.
Right. It's structurally, it reminds me of, like I said, The Road. And The Road is also a movie I don't love, but I do love the book.
That's when I looked up the synopsis, on Wikipedia, it said like, one of the creators cited that as like a heavy inspiration.
I can see it, because that's what The Road is a guy traveling with his son in the post-apocalypse and trying to survive, trying to get them to a certain point.
A safe place.
Right. And another one is also an Australian movie called Rover. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
No.
It's Guy Pearce. And Robert Pattinson is in it. A couple other. It's an independent film from Australia, and it's also post-apocalyptic, and it's a guy trying to get somewhere. And then at the end, it's this enormous gut punch of where he's been getting to. Great, great movie about a guy trying to survive. And there's something about it where they are able to make that compelling. Watching that, and that's what I'm saying. About this movie reminds me of better movies. Like I'm sitting here watching this and going, I'd rather be watching Rover right now, because that's a better version of this.
I feel like this movie, what it needed at the beginning, like when he reaches the hospital, because that, like, it's set up as like that's where we're going.
Right.
I feel like the aimlessness would have made a lot more sense if they, like, because it is supposed to be like this was his hope. Like, he's been, for months now, they've been trying to get here. So this has been his hope, and then when he gets there, he finds out it's nothing. Like, they should have shown that. They should have shown, like, devastation.
Like an empty building.
No, like the emotional weight of it. That way we feel that, like, now what do I do?
Yeah, that's a really interesting point.
But instead it's just like, he met a nice lady and he talked to her in the garden and waved goodbye. And
because that is a really cool thing that they did here, was to take the thing that was built up as, you got to get here. And, you know, he gets there and it's nothing.
He gets there immediately.
And you know, they don't play with that. They don't, of all the things they linger on in this movie, that's not one of them. You know, where it's like, that would have been a more interesting thing to spend some time with, is how does he feel now? But
now we're just workshopping the movie.
Well, I mean, because these are big emotional beats that didn't get, he doesn't even mourn his wife. Really. I mean, he just picks up, he screams. Right. He picks up the baby and he just moves on.
Yeah.
And for someone who supposedly can't let go of things, I feel like we didn't spend any time with that.
Yeah, we had, like, the little perfume thing.
Yeah.
They just delegated it to this little, we'll have this little moment. And
it was, and that was there to be the thing at the end.
You know,
right before they killed him.
There's little stuff like that. Like, there's that, and then there's, like, in the car, the wife writes, "Save her and her blood," and then, he wrote on the baby's stomach, "Thank you," when she was saved, and it's kind of like a callback.
What if he had drawn a big middle finger on there? Like, haha, you have to raise my baby now. Like,
sucker. No child support. Be pretty good.
And they're just like, I'm glad we killed him.
Yeah, I don't know. We're workshopping this movie because it's salvageable. Like,
because that's what I'm saying. There's something here.
There's a lot here. It's just,
it's kind of a mess.
A little bit, yeah.
But
I don't.
I'm not gonna knock you for liking this movie. I think it's cool that you like bad movies. I'm just joking. I think there is an audience for this movie, and I think this is like I said, I'm not going to watch this movie again, but it is a watchable. I've seen far worse movies than this. You know what I mean? Like, this is a watchable film.
I just like to focus on the positives of some movies. Like, I don't know.
I do think there are positives. I cited performances and cinematography and you know, like, this. This is not a terrible movie.
If I compare it to, there's a sci-fi movie called Passengers.
With
it's
Jennifer Lawrence.
Yeah, and what's his name? Chris Pratt.
Yeah.
And it's a movie that kind of has a message and kind of has a concept going for it, but it's just meh. Kind of like this movie, but like I feel like they're both good plots, good ideas, poorly executed, but I can't stand Passengers because it feels heartless. Like, no one...
Like, just cold?
Yeah, like, no one really put their passion into it. And this feels like there was a team hard at work here, and it feels like maybe not a small budget. I mean, they have a big star in it, but, like, it's not a huge production. It's very small. Like,
oh yeah, no, the cast is small.
It's an underdog movie. There it is.
I think it's an independent movie. Like, I don't think it's I think it's a great independent film. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
I show a lot more lenience there.
Well, I think you have to, but there's no real excuse for a movie being underwritten. Like, independent or not, you can write a good movie
true.
And a good character. And that's where my problems are with this movie. I do believe, like, people worked very hard on this movie and people cared about this movie. I know what you're saying. There are big blockbusters, I think. Not that I don't know that Passengers was like a blockbuster movie.
Yeah.
But, I mean, you know, the Transformers movies, some of the MCU stuff, for sure a lot of the DC
Rise
stuff.
of Skywalker.
Yeah. I mean, there are people, I think, who sleepwalked their way, actors and crew, probably both, that were just like, yeah, let's get this done. And, you know, didn't really care about what they were making. They were just printing money. And you know, then I think once you get down to the indie level, you're talking about people who are making a movie because they believe in that movie.
Right.
And
This is like someone's life work,
right.
Basically.
I haven't seen Passengers, but it's one of those that I'm always like, I've never heard anything great about it, but I hear there are people who like it. Nobody loves that movie, but like...
It was actually one of those ones that like, what's it called? Like the Blacklist or...
Oh.
I don't know. It was like this script that was on a list
that
of
was,
things
like,
that was like recognized, but no one had produced it yet. And then a studio basically picked it up and like changed a lot of it. Like the original script author hates that movie,
right?
And so like yeah,
that happens a lot. You know,
that was Cloverfield Lane too, right? They made that into a Cloverfield movie.
They basically made it a Cloverfield movie, even though it really isn't related to Cloverfield.
Yeah.
You know, it's just an alien invasion movie. But you know who Peter Sagal is on NPR? He does Wait, Don't Tell Me.
Yeah.
He told a story on This American Life one time about he wrote this movie about the revolution in Cuba and all of these things. And then, like, a studio got a hold of it and made so many changes to it that it became the movie Dirty Dancing Havana Nights. Like, it became this Dirty Dancing sequel that took place in Cuba.
Oh my God.
And right. Like, I think that's a lot of times when you see, like, a movie that has, like, 6 writers on it, it's, you know, 1 or 2 of those writers wrote a movie. And then the studio bought it and rewrote it a bunch of times until it's a completely different film.
Right.
You know?
They movie surgery.
Right. So that's really wild that that was Passengers, that they made a bunch of changes to it. There used to be, I don't know if it's still going, there used to be a podcast called The Blacklist where they would do table reads of like unproduced screenplays that were like everybody in the industry agreed, like, this is great, but it didn't have a home, it didn't sell, it didn't, you know, so it's like, it was really interesting. I need to see if that's still going on.
I think it's a Vox video, VOX, like the news network, that goes on about the Blacklist, and it like cites like these great movies, these what are now considered classics. They were all found on the Blacklist.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I'll have to find that. That's a YouTube video of that?
Yeah, somewhere.
Yeah, I'll find it. Maybe we'll find it and link it in the show notes.
Someday, yeah.
You got anything else on this one? Seeing as we're rabbit holing down everything else,
quick, grab onto anything interesting to talk about.
grab a hold of something in this movie.
One side note. See, a lot of the production value stuff in this is cool. Like,
it's really good.
I like the look of the zombies, with their like crusted gel eyes,
with the eye boogers, the out of control eye boogers.
And then like the white face paint that the Aboriginal people use to hide themselves. I thought that was really cool. Hide their scent, not like visually. I don't know, all these little, like, visual details.
Right.
This movie looks great.
This movie looks really good. Yeah, I can't argue that.
And the boat scene, like the boat on the river in itself, but then when they get to the tipped over sailboat, and it's like these long shots on the water and the suspense, like that is when this movie feels the most like a zombie movie. Which is good because it's like introducing, like, we start with some good tension, with like when he's in the boat and we see that little closet door.
It's a slow build towards something.
Yeah.
That's the problem, is that something kind of goes away.
They lose it. Yeah.
You know, then they're just walking, but we don't like, what are you walking towards? Where are we going? What are you working toward? I think that's what gets lost in this movie. Because you're right, the first 20 minutes of this movie are really good. They're really compelling. When he wakes up and there's bloody footprints all over their houseboat, it's like, that's a horrifying... Can you imagine waking up to that?
Right.
You know, like, that's a terrifying thing that everybody can sort of go... Oh my God! How horrible to wake up to that.
And you can see again with the performances, like he's holding a baby and he's trying not to panic, and he's like trying to put her down, and
and he's scared but trying to hold it together. You know, like he knows this is bad. You know, like I mean he is, because he's like you could have been bit by anything. There's so much stuff in this river, and she goes. Whatever bit me had fingers. And he's like, yeah, right. And he's like, fuck! Like, he's like, really upset because he knows it's terrible and that it's going to end bad, but he's trying to, again, that's the control freak that, that kind of, they lose that. You know.
What do you do when you know you only have, like, 2 days left with your loved one?
It's, yeah, I don't know. I wish that tension had kept up through the rest of the movie.
Yeah. Another small world building detail was those little kits with the I think it's meant to like speed up the process and just kill you right away.
I think it drives a nail into your brain is all it does.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
Just like
it's like a suicide kit.
Right, but also it shows, like, there was some government assistance. There was, like, we're here, society's fallen, but, like, there's hints of people trying to fix this. You don't get that in a lot of zombie media.
Well, no, because a lot of that stuff is made in America, and if you look at our response to COVID versus Australia's, I mean...
Right. That first season of The Walking Dead when they're trying to get to CDC headquarters and it's like, we've learned that people don't even listen to the CDC.
Anyway, before we go down that road,
we watched Cargo. You know what? I'm gonna say it. I would recommend this movie. I still think. If you've got plenty of time on your hands, like, you could waste 2 hours and get an interesting experience out of it.
I suppose. I wouldn't, I think if someone told me they were going to watch Cargo, I wouldn't dissuade them from watching it. Mm-hmm. But if somebody asked me if I recommended it, I think I would recommend, I would say, watch Rover, watch, you want to watch zombies, watch Train to Busan, or you can watch the movie if you want to, but a better experience of The Road is reading the Cormac McCarthy novel. It's a great book. Nihilistic as hell, great book. But I think I would, if somebody asked me about this, I would recommend something along these lines that I liked better. I think is just,
that's fair enough.
That I think is just executed better. I do recognize a lot of effort went into this movie, and I recognize that there's something here, end of the day,
you don't have to like something just because someone put a lot of effort into it.
That's
That's
what I'm saying.
People in the 70s put tons of effort into their hair, and it looked like shit. So
come on, afros were pretty cool.
Afros remain cool. I think one caveat: I would not recommend this as a horror film or a thriller.
No,
like
it's
you're a
not
horror
that at
fan,
all. Yeah.
don't even bother if you're looking for like, I need my zombie fix. Like that's not what this is. The zombies are a metaphor. It's a tool.
It is really a tool that is just there to almost be a plot device.
Mm-hmm. We need to leave this area because there's zombies.
Right. I've heard, and I've not seen this, but I've been very curious about it. There is a Arnold Schwarzenegger movie called Maggie, I think, where he is a dad and his, I think, teenage daughter has been infected with a zombie virus. And it's like a drama where he is is keeping her and trying to find a cure or before she's fully infected. There's something about that. And everybody has said, like, this is not an Arnold Schwarzenegger action movie. It's a really different kind of role, and it's a different kind of zombie movie. And it's one of those things that's been on my list of, like, I'm very curious about this. But this,
is that recent?
It's in the last 5 or 6 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So this is in between being
Arnold.
governor and...
Yeah, it's kind of... But it is like in the same way that people are like, it's not a horror movie. It's like a movie about a father trying to save his daughter.
Right.
Like,
it's a drama.
This is the same thing. This is about a father trying to take care of his kid.
I don't even think it's about Rosie. I think she's a metaphor too. Like
Yeah,
I don't know.
What's she a metaphor for? White people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Humanity continuing.
It could be.
White people conforming to ways that aren't destructive to the planet.
Yeah.
I don't know.
She'd be the new generation of
she's Gen Z.
Of the of the modern world sort of curbing its, like I guess all of society is at that crossroads of like, are we gonna turn this ship around or are we gonna keep going?
Change or die.
Pretty much. Anyway, on that note, on that upbeat note,
this movie does end on a positive note, and we should too.
Yeah, it does.
I guess. Anyway, shoutouts.
Let's move on to shoutouts.
All right.
Let's move on to things that we do wholeheartedly recommend this week.
All right. I have one. It's a bit weird. I'm recommending a whole company. Big Finish.
Amazon.
No, you may not have heard of this small
startup.
No, Big Finish Productions. This is a British company. They produce audiobooks and audio plays. And they're mainly known for Doctor Who, but they are not the BBC. They are not this big company. They are a small, well-run audio company, and they produce like high-quality stuff. And it's all over the place. Most of it's Doctor Who, but it's a bunch of sci-fi cult classics. So they have the Avengers. They have Judge.
That's the
Dredd.
That's the British Avengers, right?
No, but it's not modern Avengers. It's like 50s Avengers. Based off the comics.
Are you sure?
I think so.
I bet that's the British Avengers. That's an old British TV show about spies.
That might be right.
I would be willing to bet.
I will look into
either
that.
way, it's super cool.
Right. They also have like Sherlock Holmes and Dracula and some original stuff.
Cool.
And it's all like this is, if you want to support creatives, Big Finish is a great way to do it. It's kind of expensive. They have like I just bought So they started a whole season of like the Ninth Doctor. So it's 4 separate CD things. Each CD has 2 episodes.
CDs, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I bought CD. You can buy audio, like MP3 player. But it's like $30. So $30 for 2 episodes, the whole
Okay.
season. It adds up. But like, it's quality stuff, and it's supporting a good business. So I wanted to shout them out. And if you're listening to a podcast, you'd probably be interested. So.
I'm looking this up as you're talking about it, and it looks like it is the old
The
British
Spies,
spy.
yeah.
Emma Peel. You ever heard of Emma Peel?
I have not.
Super sexy.
Careful, Dad.
Yep. It's and the think of like the Kingsman kind of thing. It's the dapper gentleman spy kind of thing. Like
they're polite, but they're gonna murder you.
He wears like a bowler hat, and she wears like a leather catsuit, and they just like fight whatever evil. It was around the time like Bond movies were starting to come out, and in the States we had a show called The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Have you ever heard of that?
I have not.
Okay.
No, yes, I have. Yes.
Okay. It's in that same. There was like a.
It's like uncle with periods,
yeah,
right?
It's the anagram.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool show actually, but there was a whole like. It was a Cold War, and spy shit was everywhere and really cool.
The new cowboys.
It was kind of, yeah. It made government sponsored murder seem so cool.
All right, so, CIA.
Check it out. Yeah, I am gonna check that out. That seems really fun.
They are fun, and they have a lot of sales, and like sometimes they'll put up just like the first episode of something for free, so you can
cool.
test it out to see if you like the story.
Nice.
So yeah, what do you have?
I have a short documentary that I found on YouTube last week. It's like 45 minutes, and it is called Out of the Inkwell, the Fleischer Story. And it is about Fleischer Studios, which was a animation studio that came about right around the time that Walt Disney Animation was being founded, like late 20s, early 30s. They made the first Popeye cartoons, Betty Boop, all of these sort of classic, really strange, really weird, almost like psychedelic looking animations, and sort of revolutionized animation, and was actually a big competitor with Disney.
What happened to them then?
Just kind of spun out. They never blew up the way Disney did.
It sounds like DreamWorks for some reason. That's what I'm thinking of. Weird underdog.
There was it was 2 brothers, the Fleischer brothers, founded it, and there was a falling out there somewhere. There was, I think, money problems. They just didn't have like big properties and publicity. I think they couldn't compete with Disney as much. But they made the first Superman cartoon, like the very first. And if you've ever seen those, they are really, really cool. I mean, they are like still, it's very old school Superman. He doesn't fly. It's before he's overpowered Superman. It's I don't even know if like Lex Luthor is in them. It's just these very small scale by standards today, stories of Superman just saving the day. And
are they like shorts, like 5-minute little adventures?
Probably 10 to 15 minutes, somewhere in there.
Cool.
And the old Popeye stuff is really cool, and it documents the studio from its beginning to picking up these properties, and then talking about how like the success of the studio influenced sometimes the look of, all of a sudden Popeye didn't live in a shitty neighborhood. He lived in the suburbs when the studio was doing good. But it was was a really cool thing to see. I know some people have problems with classic cartoons because let's just say they weren't very politically correct most of the time in terms of like anybody who is not white or things like that. But if you are a fan of classic animation, and I think you can be even recognizing those shortcomings, I really recommend checking this out because it is a studio that's not as well known, but I think a lot of people, especially my age, have seen work from Fleischer Studios, and it's really worth seeing. You know how this stuff. It even breaks down some of the animation processes that they pioneered, and made mainstream, and how that made the look of their cartoons so freaking unique and cool.
That kind of history, I mean, that affects everything down the line.
It totally does. They really revolutionized a lot of things in animation, and like I love finding, you know, not feature length, but like short documentaries on YouTube because you know, you can just sit down and watch it and learn a lot about something that you're into.
Yeah.
So I'll have a link to that in the show notes as well, and I really recommend. If you're a fan of classic animation, you check that out.
And that's like a documentary about the history?
Yeah, it's like a 45-minute documentary about Fleischer Studios.
That's cool.
It is cool. And I think you should check it out.
We have a lot of cool stuff on this show.
There is a lot of cool stuff this week. And we want to thank you for listening this week. I appreciate you listening to The Picture Show with Austin and Phil Rood. And if you enjoy our show, please leave a review on your podcatcher of choice. It helps our visibility, and it helps us grow the show.
Another way to help us grow is to tell people about us.
Please.
Wander around aimlessly. You can go as slow as you want.
Get a bullhorn and stand on the corner and just shout out our name.
I can see how you're moving right now. Go slower. Okay, that's good. Okay.
Slow down to the pace of this movie.
That is the pace that you want to be telling people about us. We will gain 1 follower per month. So
yeah, that's it.
That's all I've got.
Cool.
What's next week?
Next week, we're both going in blind. Something new to both of us. It's been on my list. I've been very curious about it. We're watching Christopher Nolan's latest. We're going to watch Tenet.
Oh, wow. We're going from slow to fast. Maybe not.
Slow to confusing, I think. I'm really rolling the dice on this because I think this movie might be confusing.
I've been hearing negative things, but that doesn't always, I'd see it for yourself before.
I'm a big Christopher Nolan fan. This will be our second Nolan movie this season. We watched Dunkirk.
I didn't even put that together.
I didn't until just now, but I'm a big Nolan fan. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I also take into consideration, I think a lot of those negative reviews were because there was so much buildup for this movie.
Right. Well, he threw a fit over the fact that it wouldn't be in theaters.
Yes, the whole theater thing, and he was like, it has to be, and people were like, okay, this better be the biggest masterpiece. And I think when you go in with that kind of baggage, it's going to affect it.
Can I tie this in to earlier?
Okay.
An earlier topic. Andy Weir.
Andy Weir, yeah.
Weir, whatever. It's like that. I feel like Christopher Nolan, his movies are puzzles. So I feel like they lack a little bit of character, a little bit of slow, realism, but that's not what it's about. It's about these epic stories about how do dreams work and far off in space, right? He did Interstellar?
Interstellar, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Which is going to be on our show at some point.
I'm planning a whole round of sci-fi at some point, and that's going to be on there.
The big Nolan criticism that I hear a lot is he's cold and he doesn't write emotionally and he doesn't write characters very well. I still think he writes characters very well, even though I think he does keep a distance in there, and I think that's fine. I don't think his movies suffer for it, but that's
it just depends on your taste.
It does. But anyway, before we go down that whole rabbit hole, Tenet is going to be next week. It is on HBO right now. So if you watch along with us and you're also curious about Tenet, we would love you to watch along with us. I'm sure it's going to be a dense movie. I'm sure we're going to miss some things. So please watch along with us and then yell at us and tell us what we missed.
Please, please, please.
I would love that.
I hope David Tennant's in it.
Wouldn't that be great if he just shows up and is like, ah!
He's wearing his doctor costume.
And then he just walks away. That's it.
That's all we need.
It is about like time, isn't it? Time travel or time manipulation?
Yeah, I think it has something with paradoxes.
About David Tennant.
Oh my gosh.
Wow. Anyway, social media. What do you got, Oz?
I do have social media. I am...
Ooh, aren't you cool?
I know, right? I'm really hip. I'm austin.n.rood and Austin N. Rood and the Old Who Review. That's... I forget what is on what platform.
Yeah. Type in your name, you'll find him.
You can find me.
Yep. I am philrood.com. You can get all of our episodes there, and I am posting for sale the artwork that I do for each week. I'm still working on getting it all posted. I've kind of fallen behind there, but I will say this is super secret. Don't spread it around.
Oh boy!
If you order a piece off of a piece from the podcast, there's a very good chance that I will also stuff that envelope with random sketches, comic pages, drawings that I've done throughout the years that are piling up around here and that I need to get rid of. So you can order a piece from the podcast and you may get a bunch of extra stuff. Don't tell anybody. This is super secret. I'm just telling you guys.
I mean, I have a secret tip of my own. If you want some original Phil Rood art, all you have to do is be related to him. It sounds crazy.
Don't say that. And we'll have a line of people out the door. Just crashing our family reunions all the time.
Why am I getting marriage proposals?
It's like, all I have to do is what? Oh, be related to you? Yeah, no dice. Anyway, check that out, philrood.com.
Yeah.
Austin, you want to read the credits?
Yep. We did everything ourselves.
There you have it. We'll see you next time on The Picture Show.
See ya.